Shout outs to Jason Warren, Buck Fitches, and James Wingate for their super thanks. Buck Fitches sent in a pair of $10 super thanks, and James Wingate, in his super thanks, said that he had a female friend listen to me and she freaked out. James, you are doing it right, my friend. But another huge shout out to Derek the Trader with another big time $50 super thanks. I really appreciate that, Derek. My staff will be in touch with you very soon to get the details from you so that we can send you a special gift from the TSR family. Thank you all for your continued support, guys. This truly is a labor of love. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your support over the years. It means a lot. Okay, shout out to Manosphere Highlights Daily for making me aware of this particular topic. He's done several videos on this, and I would highly recommend that you go over and subscribe to his channel and check out the coffee breakdowns he did. You actually see it right here on the screen, kind of playing that in the background for you. They're very informative, and I really think those videos will go a long way in helping men to understand why a low investment first date is a very important concept for today's men to grasp. Now, I would like to add something to his talking points that I truly believe will help put this into an even better perspective and to crystallize the concept of protecting yourself at all times, like MHD says, which includes, but is not limited to, not taking modern women on expensive dates on the first date. And later on, I'm going to give you guys the perfect analogy that exposes the real reason modern women refuse to accept coffee dates. And trust me, you do not want to miss that. I really believe it is going to change the way you think about everything regarding this particular topic. So lately, there's been quite a bit of discussion among women, as you guys can see on the screen, among women and female dating coaches about coffee dates and why women should never accept that on the first date. Now, 60, 70 years ago, this would be great advice because most women who were dating and marrying age had been raised and trained by their mothers how to be good wives and mothers. You see, yesteryear's mothers made sure their daughters understand the importance of sexual temperance and why preserving their virginity was an extremely critical element in securing the highest quality husband they could attract. They were taught the importance of femininity and nurturing. They were taught how to keep a home. They were taught how to cook and clean. They were taught how to ease a man's burden so as to make his life easier and so forth. Daughters were equipped with everything that increased the odds of them being able to have a happy family and subsequently a happy life. Because of this universal curriculum that yesteryear's mothers all followed, better than 9 out of 10 women back in the day came ready-made for relationships. They were young, they were sexually chaste, they possessed domestic skills, and were ready to start families as soon as possible. As such, a low investment date for such a young lady was an insult to her entire family. Now, it is very important to note that there wasn't really a concept of a low investment date back then. They didn't exist because, as I stated before, the vast majority of the young ladies possessed all of the qualities required to start a family. Young men understood that it was on them to qualify to the young lady and prove that he could and would be a good husband and father. So the very idea of a low investment date hadn't really even pierced the consciousness of the dating market. It was rightfully assumed that most young ladies were worth wining and dining. Fast forward to 2022 and things have literally turned on its head. You see, better than 9 out of 10 women these days are not worth committing anything to outside of a one-time hookup, and even then, it's not really worth it most of the time. Not only do modern women not know how to be good wives and mothers, they're not interested in learning. They would much rather get ran through during their most fertile years when they're at their peak attractiveness, then settle down with a loser after they've had their fill of random sausage. And even then, they never really stop riding the sausage express because modern wives cheat on their husbands as a matter of habit. Which brings us back around to modern women not wanting to accept coffee dates. The reason why men like myself endorse low investment dates for modern women is because chances are any given American woman who agrees to go out with you on a date has at least 50 bodies, maybe a kid or two, probably a visible tattoo, and some sort of piercing that lets everyone know how careless they are with their bodies. Then you factor in their attitude problems, their natural disdain for men, and the lack of respect for male authority, what the do these low-rent think they deserve to be taken on an expensive dinner date for? As Manosphere Highlights Daily would say, the foolishness. Modern women aren't worth anything more than coffee dates or whatever low investment date works best for you, and the reason for this is because the average rank-and-file man has inherently more value than the average modern woman. And again, it wasn't like this before. Young ladies back in the 50s and 60s had far more inherent value than the average young man. Young men back then had to build their value the same way that young men today have to build theirs. And to that end, it was the responsibility of the young men of yesteryear to qualify to the higher value individual, which were the young, sexually chaste, domesticated ladies who had all of the skills necessary to keep a home and raise a family. Young ladies like this were at their peak in terms of their overall value. So the young men had to put their best foot forward lest he miss an opportunity to find a quality wife. But modern women today don't have anywhere close to the same value as the young ladies back then. The problem is, they're still acting like they do. They're still demanding to be treated like a lady, even though it's obvious to everyone that they're not worth anywhere near that. Now, I'm sure that there are men watching who are thinking, okay, Donovan, I see your point, but how are we supposed to deal with a woman who will not accept a coffee date? This is a very good question, which leads me to the analogy I talked about at the beginning of this video. Guys, I want you to listen very closely, because this is really going to help you to understand why you should always, and I mean always, take a woman on a low investment date at least the first 2 to 3 times you go out with her. Most of us have purchased a car in our lives, new cars or used cars. The standard operating procedure when you go onto a car lot is you take a walk around, and when you see a car or cars that you're interested in, you let the salesman know that you'd like to test drive the car. Now, some car lots run your credit before they allow you to test drive the vehicle and some don't. But at some point, you are going to get behind the wheel and take it for a spin. You or someone you trust is going to inspect the vehicle to make sure that everything is in working order, Carfax, etc., etc. After that, you negotiate a little bit and eventually you settle on the price and then make the purchase. Now, I know a lot of you guys are scratching your heads thinking, okay, Donovan, we know all that, but what's that got to do with coffee dates? I'm glad you asked. But before we step into Starbucks, let's stay at the car lot for a little while longer. Stay with me here, guys. Let's say you see a car you're interested in and you let the car salesman know. The salesman tells you the asking price of the car, which is always inflated, that's the business, but he gives you the price nonetheless. Then let's say you ask the salesman to test drive the car and the salesman tells you no, you cannot test drive the car. Now, what does that tell you about the car? It tells you that there's something wrong with it. If the salesman wants to sell you a car but will not allow you to test drive it, that is a clear indicator that the salesman is hiding something about the vehicle. Maybe the radiator's cracked, maybe the fan belt doesn't work, maybe the timing belt is on its last leg. I speak from personal experience there. I mean, it could be anything. So if you were to ever find yourself in that position, in front of a salesman who will not allow you to test drive the car you're interested in, but is still willing to sell it to you, you're obviously not going to purchase the car. Gentlemen, modern women are just like used car salesmen in this regard. No matter what they say, modern women know they ain't. They know they're not quality women, and proof of their lack of quality is right there on Instagram. It's common knowledge in these parts that the more skin she shows, the less she has to offer, if anything at all. The reason modern women are refusing coffee dates or low investment dates at a higher rate is because they know that even though they may have the body of a 2021 Jaguar F-Type, oddly specific, there's a 1984 Honda Accord engine with 500,000 miles on it under the hood, which is also oddly specific. They know that if you get in, you turn the key and you fire up that engine, you are not going to invest in that vehicle. A coffee date is a test drive, gentlemen. If a woman knows that she has value, if she knows that she can add to a man's life, she has no problem going on a coffee date to prove herself. It's the exact same way that a car salesman has no issue letting you test drive a vehicle he knows will make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up when you open up the engine on the open road. But if a woman knows that she's just a pretty face and a nice body and not much else, she doesn't want to give you the opportunity to discern this about her. She wants you to invest in an expensive date up front before you discover what's under that hood. Just like the car salesman who wanted to sell you the car without a test drive. Any woman who refuses to go on a coffee date or out for drinks or any other low investment date with you the first 2 times is telling you in no uncertain terms that she is a low value female. She essentially wants you to buy the car without making sure it runs properly and that it's worth the asking price. Now, some women are probably saying, well, wait a minute, I'm a quality woman. I deserve an expensive dinner date. And my response to you? Prove it. Prove to the men out there that you're not just another bimbo out here fleecing unsuspecting men for free meals. Prove that you're not the typical modern woman who has nothing to offer but a nice body and a matching headache. Well, I shouldn't have to prove that. This ain't 1955, sugar tits. You see, back then, it was a safe assumption that most young ladies were worth making an effort for. But 7 decades later, there is more than enough empirical data and hard evidence to assume that most of y'all ain't shit. So if you really are different, then prove it. And if you have a problem with proving your worth to the men you want, then I would suggest that you go to a used car lot, point to a car you'd like to buy, and pay for it without taking it on a test drive. The thought you're thinking at this very moment, ladies, is exactly what men think when you refuse a coffee date. I rest my case.